Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Cologne for Season 8, League of Legends, well underway now in our amateur tournament. But really, let's face it, it's not really an amateur tournament, is it? Game 1 has gone to the team in white, which would usually mean Copenhagen Wolves won the first game. And that's exactly what did happen. It's just I'm a bit confused because both teams are in white. I don't know, I can't get used to that white colour. I'm with you guys out there. Forget that Alex Mann and what he said earlier. It's time to get into number 2, Game 2 of our best of 3. Can SK Gaming's new lineup make it to 1-1 and make it a 3-map? Well, we're about to find out. Let's go back to our commentary team. It is the wonderful Crepo with Joe Miller.
The wonderful Crepo
with the wonderful
Joe Miller.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Red Eye. But yeah, as rightly said, game number 2 coming up now. SK Gaming, you know, backs to the wall, if you like, 1-0 down in this best of 3. Let's start off with bans and picks here. I mean, we talked about comfort for SK in game number 1, but comfort that generally didn't really work together and maybe as they'd have wanted it to.
Touching on something you said earlier, by the way, you mentioned Zyra, a possible ban. I mentioned earlier that they play a lot of Zyra Jinx as a bot lane, Nif, so who knows, they might just pick it off away from Copenhagen Wolves and play it themselves. And they do run into the risk running into Annie rather, so that might be a little bit dangerous, but they've shown that they've played that bot lane so well, so that could be a possible play there.
And speaking of first bans and first picks, Copenhagen Wolves moved to the blue side from this one after their red side victory, so they're going to get the choice of that first ban and, more importantly, probably that first pick to come out a little bit later on as well. We'll see how that one all works out for them, but you can see there on your screens, Copenhagen Wolves looking relaxed, and rightly so. 1-0 up in a best of 3. Of course, Ninjas in Pyjamas waiting for them in the grand final after their 2-1 victory over TCM a little bit earlier on today. And don't think it's over when this best of 3 is over, because it's not. We've got 2 more best of 3s coming your way today from the pro side of the Intel Extreme Masters here, with Red versus Gambit, and then of course a little bit after that, CLG versus Turquality Blue. So 2 amazing best of 3s still to come after this one.
Yeah, plenty of League of Legends to go around. Definitely, this game is not even over. There's a good chance SK bounces back and makes this a 3-game best of 3, the second of today. So it looks like we might be spending a lot of time here, Joe.
In for a long day and an early day tomorrow. That's how I like it. So let's get into the picks and bans here, because we are underway. And I can tell you the first ban coming out from the Copenhagen Wolves is going to be Orianna, and obviously aimed straight towards Jesus. Lucian banned out from the other side, so SK don't want to go up against that again.
Yeah, Lucian banned out may actually give them more options to pick a lot more versatile bot lane compositions, and that might free up some bans or allow them, for example, to take the Zyra if SK feels that Lucian was the cornerstone of their play and they just want to play Zyra Jinx and they feel maybe comfortable. Maybe they pick something else. Maybe Jesus will pick another champion and then maybe we'll spice it up a little bit. Less melees, a bit more range. Who knows? Plenty of to go around.
Well, Nidalee was another champion that Jesus played in the qualifiers actually for the Intel Extreme Masters, so that taken away. Annie Shyvana ban here towards SK. On the other side, Gragas was the second ban taken out from SK, and we'll now see if they go. They've gone to Renekton here, so they don't want that Renekton going through, and Copenhagen Wolves picking up the Elise here, which amazing is great on in the jungle, but we also know that Youngblood can play in lane as well.
Well, yeah, SK banning out Renekton, their own Renekton, pretty big sign or a pretty big tell. Say, hey, like, we're done with this champion, let's try something else. Shyvana being banned out, I like that. Copenhagen Wolves respect the ban. Also, them banning it out themselves, so they probably aimed for a different first pick. They probably assumed that either Elise or Renekton was going to be open and they wanted one out of both, and if not both of them later. And yeah, they banned out Shyvana to be safe.
Well, we are going to be seeing a Jax picked up here for Freddy 122. And there's that Zyra that we were talking about. Will it be banned out? Will Copenhagen Wolves first pick? Or will SK say, you know what, we can play that Jinx Zyra lane that we've done so well with? Ashe Zyra was something that SK even went with in the LCS as well, so that's not completely out of the window. They have locked in the Zyra.
And here comes the Annie, possibly. I know Unlimited plays a decent Thresh as well, or a good Thresh rather, because he's all pretty damn good players. But yeah, Annie probably slightly better pick against the Zyra, but they might want Thresh for more Lantern. Lantern ganks possibly with Elise, or definitely something you want to watch out for. Lantern in, immediate repel, you can't even, almost can't flash out of it because she'll land and cocoon you immediately. So, and yeah, pairing it up with the Caitlyn, a lot of safety to get away from the Jax, outranging the Zyra, pretty solid picks here.
Solid picks coming across the board, and 2 out of 3 new picks for the Copenhagen Wolves. Looks like SK may go for that Lee Sin once again. So Jinx is going to be locked in. That's the first time here at the Intel Extreme Masters, and makes me very, very happy. If not for anything other than her ultimate name in the middle of fights, is great to get out there.
Exactly, you can shout it out all the time you want. But definitely, I'm already seeing like a few interesting combos in team fights for SK here. Like a lot of CC train, which means like a lot of follow-up from crowd control effects. Zyra can open up, Jax can open up. They can both follow up upon each other. Then Jinx can put the traps down. If the guy magically gets away somehow, she zaps him from long far away. And if he then is on low health, you can start shouting Super Mega Death Rocket. So definitely like a good picks, fun picks at least to watch and commentate on.
Well, we'll see how fun they are for SK Gaming, because they're the ones that need to bounce back here in this best of 3. Copenhagen Wolves then onto their final 2. We've got Elise, which still could end up with amazing in the jungle. I think it honestly will do with Youngbuck here. We see a Singed being hovered over and a possible Kassadin. Now, Kassadin obviously was banned in game number 1. Going to get through this time, and they are going to be picking that one up. It leaves SK the chance to, you know, pick something against that one. The Singe was locked in as well there.
I'm not too entirely sure about the Kassadin. I know you're under danger. I think actually SK did a good job, and Copenhagen Wolves helped SK targeting the Kautar's champion pool there, because he's playing blind Kassadin and a guy that mains Riven. That's really confident, or on the brink of, like, you might say stupidity, because it's really hard to lane that. Maybe we see some interesting lane swaps coming out. Maybe Copenhagen Wolves have a plan and show me wrong, but blind picking Kassadin into an open mid laner slot is definitely very tricky.
And the fact is, we said it in the last one, we saw Jesus on his tower die to give up first blood. Very strange, which tells me, you know, just it was uncalculated, and Jesus didn't really quite know what happened there. Maybe showing a little bit of a lack of experience of playing against a Zyra in that mid lane. But he'll know how to play against a Kassadin in mid lane, that's for sure.
A lot more liberty, and maybe because we can't judge the mid-game Riven that we saw from Jesus that's gonna come out now compared to last game, because it's an entirely different game, and Riven even gave her like a small advantage. She can snowball that super hard. But again, we're seeing somewhat of the same problems in SK's lineup. Both mid and top are melee characters. Okay, they have a gap closer, but they're pretty all in, you know. They have to kill that one guy, blow him up, and switch to the next one. While Copenhagen Wolves is going to be trying to do the same again. Survive, kite back, Caitlyn jumps out, Kassadin jumps out, Sin just flips you away. And it's a very versatile composition compared to SK. Still pretty all in.
Still pretty all in. We're going to see a teleport run here as well by Kautar on this Kassadin, so look for him making a few plays across the map. Nif getting the Zyra this time around. Not a mid lane Zyra, so not quite as much damage to come out of it, but that control will be absolutely vital for this SK lineup, who, as you said, we talked about the whole Riven, Lee Sin and Jax in the top lane this time around. They're very similar to the 3 that they had in that last time, with the gap closer, which obviously helps a lot in there. But very interested to see how this one works out. Copenhagen Wolves, you know, they looked very confident from the get-go in game number 1. We'll see if they can do the same here in game number 2. Let's talk a little bit about level 1, because again we see that Annie in the team, always a deadly champion to have in there at level 1. Plus the fact that you've got, you know, traps that can come out from Caitlyn, flings from Singe, cocoon from an Elise, which is not an ideal start either way, but if they need it, it's there.
Yeah, looking at the lineup, generally what you do as a pro player to assess a level 1 is just look, what can we do? Can we fight straight on? Can we catch somebody? Yes, Elise has cocoon, but she doesn't really want to start with that. Singe can flip, that's really strong. Counter pretty much get nullified by Kassadin, who pretty much does nothing in a level 1 fight.
True.
Caitlyn probably wants to start Q. Any AoE stun is pretty damn good, but doesn't outweigh Jax AoE stun, Riven AoE damage, Zyra snare, and Jinx early game damage. So definitely SK with the edge here, and they're going to use that edge, hopefully, to control the game from the start.
So let's see. Amazing actually going to be caught out here. Q from Svenska and landing, and that will force Amazing to completely back away from this one.
W.
Spidling in there. Yeah, that's already been pulled there. And SK here on top of the blue. Will they stick around and do it?
Yeah, SK definitely warding and going for the lane swap ward again, coming out of Nif there. Good read though by Copenhagen Wolves, because the answer is obviously don't contest your own jungle, just mirror the wards, and that's what Unlimited Rada did there. Went into the blue, placed the ward down. Pretty safe start, nobody caught out. Definitely Copenhagen Wolves so far happy with that.
Well, it seems like we have Little bit of a bug here maybe for Forgiven. See the admins in there behind him just making sure that that all gets fixed up, and Wolves already asking if they're ready to go again. So we're going to get straight back into this one. No real messing around at level 1, just to making sure that everyone is, has their PCs working, which is always a good thing to have. SKE, as you said, that lane ward going down so that you can see where those lanes will actually be headed. The funny thing is that Youngbuck's already up in the lane, which means that they're not going to see anything at all.
Yeah, good job by him. SK actually doesn't want to start on the buff they warded, obviously. They're probably going to start on their own red, it seems, unless they move over to blue, which is warded. Basically, the junglers are now pretty much picking 2 buffs they want to get. Either they want to get one and contest the other and hopefully find something there, or hopefully go for a safe start. It looks like they're heading over to their blue, which they should assume is warded. Maybe they actually find that out right now and switch back to red magically. Let's see what Sven decides to do.
Well, currently he's sat on that blue buff with no one really to back up the duo lane. They may run a bit of harass up there, but will they be able to stop that from happening? They're going to see that Freddy is coming down into this bottom lane. So funnily enough, after putting that lane ward down to see where the 2v1's in, they've been spotted themselves coming from this.
And this is really dangerous. They were a little late. I don't like the... Yeah, exactly. They've come too late for the smite. They might get Svenskeren here, though.
Oh, gone very, very low. The ignite ticking, but not going to be enough damage to kill him off. But Freddy is taking a lot of damage himself, and they forced 2 men right back. Svenskeren can't start his blue buff now.
And this looks like a really good play by Copenhagen Wolves, but I can't feel that they did it a little too late. Imagine they did that 3 seconds earlier. Blue buff would be up. They would be forced out. They could possibly even finish the blue buff themselves. Maybe even waste Svenskeren's smite. Although right now they forced him out of lane, but Svenskeren's still jungling. There's no counter pressure immediately from Elise. Perhaps he should have just rushed down to the red jungle of Lee Sin, but at the same time he can't really do that because he gets backed up by his top lane. So there's so many variables coming into this play. I think the correct move right now is going to be contesting the blue and hopefully getting at least 3 buffs.
And I was totally weird about that. I didn't think he got the blue and was forced away, but he obviously did.
No, he did.
Take that one
he
down.
He smited it because they were a little late. They came in at 158 roughly. You want to be there at 154. Right as they hit the buff, they know it's, oh damn, there's 2 people jumping on us, and that's really hard to deal with.
And we see that Copenhagen Wolves already doing a lot of damage to this tower here from Freddy, who they know had that counter-strike right from the start. He can't really get in there and can't really do much about that pressure that he's taking. Youngbuck, on the other hand, he's going to sit underneath this turret, always at danger of the fling if you put damage onto him underneath the tower.
Exactly, and normally you can dive a Cinch pretty early. It's really dangerous, but you can because he's relatively squishy early. But because of that play, they shut down Lee Sin jungle. There's no dive coming out. Cinch knows that he's going to scale a lot better. They even forced Jax out. As you said, a lot of damage on that turret. That's because they forced him out. They knew exactly what they were up against. They put Lee Sin behind, and right now Elise is grouping up, and they're just going to take down that tower.
Oh, good start here for the Copenhagen Wolves. Top side of things, Candy Panda and Nif trying to put as much damage as they possibly can onto the top turret themselves, but that not working out so well, obviously. The fact is that Singe is going to be that threat there for them, clearing out those waves nicely, and the first turret of the game is going to be going over to the Copenhagen Wolves, and look at this. SK sending up the 3rd man, Svenskeren, in the tri-bush. We'll see what he can do. Kautard, let's not forget, has a teleport. Well, that could be interrupted by Riven if he's not in the right position. Here they go. They're going to dive on towards Youngbuck. Knight goes down. It's Nif that's actually tanking up the turret. He has to flash away. And there is a zap coming through. That's not going to be enough damage to finish off instantly. Nif still doing damage, but he's actually tanking the creeps. Svenskeren will get the kill. Nif survives. Nicely executed by SK.
I feel Youngbuck almost played it as well as he could. He's buying as much time as he can because his team is already on the 2nd turret. Jax is level 3, doesn't have any power to stop that push. Youngbuck knew it was coming. He just stood at his tower. He defended as long as he can because he wants to buy time because this turret is getting chipped away at.
And Freddy, throws the counter-strike on him. He's like, can't really do a lot of... I can't do anything about that one either way. Candy Panda is going to be taking off this turret, though. We'll just finish that one off with a couple of creeps to spare.
And fly away.
And it was always good news for him. He gets away, but that inner turret is going to go down. Freddy cannot do diddly squat about that one. We did see Svenskeren start to come down, but all just a little bit too late.
So yeah, normally you'd argue, hey Youngbuck, why did you get caught there? You should know that they're coming to dive you. Oh, they're going to listen.
Oh, onto Svenskeren, and they've done a lot of damage there, but couldn't quite follow on. The ward from Svenska and really saving his bacon from that one. Coutard, meanwhile, being hammered away at here by Jesus, and he's actually Coutard 35 to 33 CS. They're doing a great job in terms of staying alive in that lane whilst managing to CS the entire time as well.
Yeah, very impressive play by Coutard these both games. He definitely has Jesus' number in both these engages, because he shouldn't really win against Riven. Definitely not early.
Yeah, should probably be behind in CS at least from this point of things. As SK try and cover over onto this mid lane. Copenhagen Wolves rotating around nicely. And as we see these 1v1 Jax versus Singe in the top lane come back, Youngbuck is a country mile ahead. 24 to 8 CS. He's going to get a full wave here as well from the farming between the turrets, as he is in danger now though. Puts his slow down, but he gets stunned up, will fling Freddy away, but Freddy is able to jump straight back in there, and they pick up a kill. It was Ignite that finished him off. Jax getting an early kill, not always safe for you.
This is really damn good for SK because they needed this a lot. I think disrespect from Youngbuck. I mean, proxy firing with Singe is right, but at this timing, this early, no. If they have enough base damage to take you down, why don't you wait for your summers to come back up, and then you can draw all the aggro you want and flash out and let your team react. Right now, he started proxy farming way too early. He should have just exploited that CS advantage, and just, yeah, he got caught.
Yeah, and especially when they know that his flash is down and Lee Sin and Jax between them can control him all day long. So,
exactly.
Yeah, we'll see how Youngbuck adjusts that, because definitely not the ideal play coming out from him there. He is still ahead in the CS though, but that could catch up to him very, very quickly with this Jax now getting extra power in the early stages. Meanwhile, mid lane, Coutard having a very nice time of things. Probably didn't expect that he was going to have this nice of a time of it. Currently a 6 CS lead that he has, and he's forcing a chunk of minions to be lost there for Jesus.
Yeah, Cassidy controlling the laning pace against the Riven solo is, it's pretty much unheard of as far as I know. I don't think that's the way the lane is supposed to go.
Happens in my games, but that's also not much of an indication as to how it should probably go in the end of things. Top lane, Youngbuck now back into his lane, picking himself up that Ruby Crystal with a Doran's Ring and Doran's Shield from earlier. Freddy, Crystalline Flash, Doran's Blade as well. That poison, not going to be too worrying for him here at this stage of things.
Now, 1v1, not much is happening. Youngbuck will get chipped down, but he can always disengage with his fling. Basically, the game's going to start revolve around the bottom side of the map with the dragon coming into play.
Not much of the bottom side of the map left here for SK. They got no inner turret, which leaves them, you know, in the middle of nowhere, actually. If they, I guess, lose control of that bottom side of their jungle, the ramps in particular, it becomes real dangerous for them to be going out there for farm.
Yeah, if they manage to get pushed out really deep back behind their second, or rather the rubble of their second turret, then Copenhagen Wolves can transition into a Drake play, possibly even bait him as they possibly did with the Nashor the earlier game. They can either choose to do the Drake or bait it. They probably have to do it a lot quicker because they might lose too much on lanes, but they could definitely control the game already by getting deep wards in the enemy jungle. That's why getting towers is so efficient in League of Legends, because you can put the vision down in the enemy's jungle and they really have a hard time even stepping out their own jungle, and you can pretty much just choke them to death.
Now, this mid lane again, we revisit it, and Coutard still holds his lead, and he's at level 6 now, which is the time where his play against this Riven becomes safer.
Yeah, definitely, he has a lot more options, a lot more roaming potential as well, so he controlled the early game, which is the hardest on Cassidy. I think they're happy farming though, let's face it, Cassidy doesn't really care too much about Drakes as long as he's getting constant CS on lane. They're just letting Elise try and pick off a gank.
And speaking of Elise, Amazing is now headed up towards his top lane, where Freddy, who picked up a kill early, will have Svenska waiting off in the wings, and this could be very dangerous, especially underneath that turret. There's the fling onto Freddy. He will jump straight back off there. Will they try and put the damage down? Not now, because they've seen Svenska and headed out of the jungle, and that will push them back, at least for now.
See, that was very poor coordination. You can actually catch Freddy unaware by just flaming him and cocooning on the same time, knowing where he will be flung. Really hard to do, but at the same time, you can't really expect to fling a Jackson and give him about a second to dodge a cocoon, so it does add some pressure there, but opens up to counter ganks.
Oh, there's the ultimate actually coming out. Will they jump in from this one? I think Freddy is quite happy to survive that one. Youngbuck's ultimate being used from that position as well. This turret staying safe for now. Meanwhile, SK are doing their blue buff. That is going to be given over towards Jesus. Something that he didn't get in game number 1, actually. Svenska was taking them.
Completely right, and he's forced to take it because right now they know they can safely do it, otherwise they might lose it to additional pressure. AD support grouping up in mid now, pushing with a Cassidy.
Ace in the hole goes through from that one. Nifia as well to offer a bit of control on towards those 3 champions that are putting the damage down, but they've lost half of the health here on that inner outer turret. Middle outer turret is what it actually is. But they keep up that pressure here.
Definitely really good rotation there. Caitlyn using the max range to... Basically, Caitlyn sieges very well, and if she gets the advantage in lane, she can push out and rotate and siege another tower. Zyra and Jinx are grouping up, but definitely Copenhagen Wolves, again, pushing those tower advantages because they're fighting against all melee champions. Even on top right now, they're chipping away at top. They're grouping up with the Cassidy, pushing down his lane. If they manage to get all these 3 outer turrets, as we call them, then they can ward up the enemy jungle, and they can start snowballing their lead.
And that mid one is constantly being hammered away by Forgiven as well. Coutard basically offering silence there at the front of things. Always got the option to have a bit of a jump in if things come down to that. And you see Candy Panda gets hit with the net. The Piltover Peacemaker comes flying through as well. And while he's trying to force him away, it ends up taking more damage than he can put out. And they lose the turret as well.
Yeah, they can afford sending 5 people mid because they no longer have the risk to lose their turret top. Additionally, they can transition into Drake after taking the tower. So really damn good rotations by Copenhagen Wolves.
So Dragon started then. We can see the SK don't want to give this one up for free. They've got men starting to move down, but I think by the time they've actually got there, this Dragon could be well gone. We see that Svenskeren is leading the charge at the front, but there is the Dragon pickup, smited away in the end by Amazing, and that is another great play out of the Copenhagen Wolves. Very methodical here, and it's working in their favor.
The only thing you could argue that Amazing got a little too low there, should have maybe let one of his spiders tank, because as we can maybe Super Mega Death Rocket could steal the Dragon there eventually if he got a little too low, but that's really nitpicking. Very good play, as you said, methodical, very thought out, step by step, and they're basically squeezing the life out of SK Gaming.
What do they do though to stop this from happening? I mean, now that all 3 turrets are down, they need to fight for that control in their jungle and pick people off.
Pick people off, and what you need for picks, you need vision, and what you need for vision, you need control of the game, and they don't have that. This is definitely, if Copenhagen Wolves plays this correct, they send Singed being annoying in the side lane, just flipping people around and then just go, flashing out and just popping his ulti to distract people, and then good rotations by Copenhagen Wolves, although it gets significantly harder every time because they're literally running out of turrets to take. So if SK can manage to keep the gold somewhat close, they can actually swing the game back around because it's about a 3k disadvantage. That's roughly the amount of turrets that is different, so farming-wise, they're still on the same level.
On the same level as Amazing, just coming in there, having a look at blue. Actually, pink ward down on that blue buff right now. And Nif has a pink of his own, but didn't see that pink go down, so won't know that that's actually there for the taking. But Copenhagen Wolves starting to get that vision in. They've got it on the top side as well, as Niffy are going to get caught out. The rappel comes down. He's going to use the Strangled Thorns, which will knock them up, but not save his life. And now Candy Panda caught out of position. Svenskeren going to come in there, as we did see the Cocoon miss. They go on towards Candy Panda. A lot of damage coming out of Coutard. He will flash away from that one as well. Svenskeren actually sticking around from this, but he's going to have to back away. Jesus comes in, but a little bit too late. 2 nice kills there picked up by the Wolves.
And this is the second time in 2 games Zyra plans ends up being the demise of the caster that throw them out, because Elise repelled onto a plant, transitioned that into a really Cocoon and CC chain on Zyra, and Nif dropped, and that allowed the transition into Candy Panda quick enough. So definitely that repel was really well played by Amazing. You know, no champion in range, I'll just repel on top of the plant and just move on.
Bit of a bane, as you said, happened in that last game with the Dragon Steel coming down as well. There's an ace in the hole that flew through on towards Nif. Freddy dives in there, has to get himself back out, and he's going to pay for it with his life. A little bit reckless, I think, diving in. Actually, he got flung in there. It was Youngbuck that threw him in from that one. Still, I think probably should have been out of range from that one. It's kind of obvious when a Singe running towards you exactly what's going to happen for it. But now they push even through even further onto that inhibitor turret as well. And I'd like to say slowly but surely, but it's not even that slow. We're 14 minutes in.
No, definitely. It's only 14 minutes in. Seems like a lot farther into this game, but definitely Copenhagen, the Wolves definitely controlling this game so damn well. Exactly, the deep vision coming in now, they're controlling the jungle. They don't need to overreach because they don't want to basically blow everything and get caught and get AoE'd by, or CC chain rather by SK Gaming. If they keep the methodical approach, they keep casting and split pushing. Remember, he still has his teleport, hasn't used it yet. Imagine a Singed on the side lane fleeing somebody with a surprise TP from Cassidy while other members are still on the lane. So much movement, so much mobility against very static lane lineup from SK Gaming. All melees, relatively predictable.
And if we look at the CS here as well, just to touch on that again briefly, mid lane, 135 to 113. Like, I mean, we're kind of past the point where Riven should have been getting that advance, should have been maybe even argue putting down damage to possibly set up kills as well with Svenska and combined, certainly. That lane just did not go how it should have gone overall, and they're paying a price for that OL now.
Well, we never know what actually caused it. Maybe he had too little vision, maybe he played too safe, respected the enemy jungler too much, expected him to get ganked because that might be, he may be afraid to be getting shut down, but in doing so, he lost so much CS, so much pressure on the lane that he just gave Cassidy a free game, and if you give Cassidy a free game, we all know what can happen.
Oh, and look at this. Freddy caught completely out, gets flung back from it. He's going to drop the counter-strike. Kautar actually rift walks away from that one. Freddy now going to try and walk himself off, but I'm not sure that's really going to survive. Going to help him survive. He just going to dive over. There's the fling back. There's the silence coming in, and he's going to tick away. The poison eventually finishing him off. There's another kill coming down for the Copenhagen Wolves. And that opens up this top lane even further, as we can see the Wolves all rotating towards that top side of the map.
Yeah, that's exactly what they need to be doing. Get deep vision. Don't fight too much. Don't tunnel vision on those turrets. Maintain that vision. Clear the enemy's vision. Catch who you can. Scale up to like 20 minutes into the game. Get towers if you can, and then go for an Asher. Or just finish the game by pushing if you catch too many people.
There's a teleport from Kautar. Comes into this top lane to offer some support. They're actually going to fling Jesus from that one. Youngbuck here off towards the bottom side. Uses his flash in the end. We did see Stranglethorns being used there by Nif, but honestly, it didn't really do much. Jesus now getting caught out by the cocoon. Nice traps put down there by Jinx to stop them really following on from that one. But in the meantime, this mid lane being pushed up as well. Pressure is on right now.
So Copenhagen Wolves at 17 minutes into the game just finished down their last outer turret, or inner turret rather. And how did they do that? Without Caitlyn. They're not even using their prime siege captain, so to say, to even take down the turret. So that just indicates how far ahead they are and how comfortable they're playing this game.
And let's not forget, it's a best of 3. You see there at the top, 1-0 the current score for the Copenhagen Wolves. And if they can turn this big lead that they've got, 6,000 gold it is now, into that win, then they will be going through to tomorrow's amateur final to take on Ninjas in Pajamas. And maybe even more importantly, this gives us kind of a sneak peek into what we could see at promos as well.
Yeah, definitely. The teams are not to be underrated. The amateur scene is growing, and it's not only just the pro scene, as well as we saw last season, but there's a fight in it.
Youngbuck, well, we say fight. It's more of Youngbuck being caught a little bit out there. He is going to fall to this one. Took him a hell of a lot to finish him off. Just a testament to how strong he is right now. I mean, well, he's got Rod of Ages, which is not massively strong, but there's not a lot of power on the other side coming in. Kautar actually going very, very aggressive. There comes Tibbers down onto Candy Panda and Nif. They managed to lock up Freddy. He'll be finished off by Forgiven's ace in the hole, and that is a 2-for-1 here. And with Jax down, with Lee Sin, they lose pretty much everything in terms of starting a fight.
Exactly. Great counter-initiate Tibbers to zone people off the cast, and Kautar almost got caught there taking down Svensson, but that's the power of their composition. SK, sure, they can take one guy down, but Copenhagen Wolves can chase them and then immediately translate that into sieging the turret as they're doing right now.
And that tower, Tibbers still banging away at it. Almost been taken down with that single push right there. I think the fact that Kautar did go very, very low. Pretty lucky to actually get out there, hit the Rift Walk at exactly the right time, as he did get rooted up. But it's going to turn into another dragon here for the Copenhagen Wolves, an easy one that they'll take here with Youngbuck Unlimited and Amazing, and stretch this gold lead even further. Not too far away from hitting a 10,000 gold lead. And if we look down the scoreboard, 2 kills for Caitlyn and no deaths, 2 for Cassidy with 3 assists, no death, 1 for Elise, 1 for Singed. And yeah, Youngbuck's died 3 times in this one, but honestly, it's not made that much of a difference. It's 1 kill for Jax, 2 in there for Lee Sin. They just don't seem to be able to fight at any stage here.
Yeah, if at one point in the game Singed is your own sacrificial goat, you're doing it right.
And that's what's happening here. Again, we see him gonna pop his ultimate moving in. His option, his objective here, just to hold off this tower with Forgiven coming in. Those minions gonna go very low, and Nif actually gets caught, flung right underneath the tower. And we see there's 5 men from SK there, and now the Copenhagen Wolves bring Cassidy down from this top side. I thought he might just keep pushing, knowing what's there as the ace in the hole comes through. This time they block it nicely, but here comes Kautar. They're going to go straight in for that one. Can they get out Nif? He's very, very low. Finished off there by Amazing, and they land the cocoon onto Jesus. He's flung back into the rest of the team. Svenska dives in to get the slowdown at least, but Copenhagen Wolves are just walking through them at this point.
I really like what they did there, initially sending Cassidy top for a split push.
Oh,
caught.
Freddy
got
he's dead from that one. Tibbers comes down, stuns him up. Not much he can do. Super Mega Death Rocket comes through in the air. That might
Sadly,
be the
not
one
money.
and only time that I get to say it during this game, because the Copenhagen Wolves are
Taking
just
them by
ripping
storm.
through.
Definitely. I really, as I was pointing out before, Freddy got caught or tried to defend the inhib there. They were doing something really smart. They were holding off 4 people in mid lane to stop the push and send Cassidy in split push. But then their adaptation really shows. They're not tunnel visioning on that 4-man mid, 1-man on top. Notice it, like these guys are poke, sent Cassidy from top to mid, slow them down. Cassidy just flashed in, immediately popped his E to slow them all down, and it just showed that he's not afraid to use his flash offensively and just save his Rift Walk to get back out and then back in again. So really well played. They know exactly how far they can push these fights. Counter seems really confident about his teammates' ability to help them, because they showed it last fight as well. He jumped in alone.
Dive in, yeah.
Almost died, but he knew, well, I might die, but at least my team will avenge my death, and if not, they will zone them so hard that I can almost get out of the fight unscathed. And that's exactly what they're doing. Really well played. Their mobility coming into the game, they're using it perfect.
I see that Nif is battling here to keep some kind of vision control up. He's just throwing a ton of wards down on the top side of the map. Got that Oracle's Elixir as well. Looks like he's actually headed home back to buy even more to come back into this next one. Doesn't even have boots right now either, and that's just the sad how it is right now. Sad almost in a way. I mean, they're 10,000 gold behind. He's not got boots. He's not got the money to put into those wards. And it's that whole, I guess, circle of death almost that we talked about earlier. You lose the vision control because you've lost your towers. You got less gold. Your wards are gone. You can't afford to get more.
Exactly, and it's just wards is the most efficient item almost in the game, because SK needs, if they somehow have a chance to win this game, they need to pick people off, and they can't do that if enemy has vision on them, so they need to create vision themselves, create picks, pray for a Baron attempt, a throw, as we say, and then just hope they can steal it somehow. Lysine steals it, Super Mega Death Rocket combined with Lysine Q can steal it. They need their like Hail Mary, they need save grace, or catch out people getting too confident.
Such as Cowtard, who
is not getting too confident.
He's not getting too. He actually, at the time, the Candy Panda's there, and he's like, huh, maybe there's someone in that brush. Candy Panda's like, yeah, I'm in this brush, but you know what? I'm not sure that we can, between us, even kill you. So I'm just going to back away. Copenhagen Wolves are pushing straight in on towards this top inhibitor turret right now. And the siege potentially is just pretty deadly from the Svenska, and comes diving in. He's going to get thrown about all over the place. Ends up falling. The repel saved Amazing from taking any damage, and that's an easy pickup whilst Cassidy pushes that bottom lane. He's got the teleport as well, so he can join in. It's a 4v4 or even a 5v4, depending on how it's going. He can choose.
It doesn't even matter anymore. Normally people would split push and back off and then go in again and back off, but they don't even need that. Copenhagen Wolves is just going to storm the base, switch to bottle him after, or just go for the finish. They're so damn far ahead, and it's, yeah, this game is over, let's face it.
Yeah, this one is over. We can call it. We can call it. Yeah, we always like to keep that optimism. It's almost our job to keep it exciting in there. But you look at the performance and the way that the Wolves have played this one, so good. There is another kill for Forgiven. Svenska dives in onto the back line, but he's going to be finished off here by Amazing. Jesus doesn't stand a chance either, and that's 3 men down. Candy Panda and Nif backing off towards the fountain. Might even not get that one. The barrier will just about save him. There's the fountain coming in. Cowtard did get the kill, jumps into the fountain, uses the Zhonya's. Nice bit of showmanship there at the end, but this game is going over to the Copenhagen Wolves. 2-0 here against SK Gaming, and this one, game number 2, so dominant.
Very dominant. Look at how they do those fights. One by one, they take the enemy down. No scatter, no confusion. Great shot calling. I don't know who does it for them, but their target calling is on point. Of course, it's easier when you're winning, but it's still the same. One by one, and then at the end, Cowtard felt a little bad for Youngblood having all the death participation, so he joined in. Had
to dive in, yeah. It was Youngblood who was at 3 deaths, the most in the team, the only deaths in the team.
Exactly.
Cowtard ending 6-1-5 there. We had a little bit of a worry about this Kassadin going up against the Riven, the fact that do you pick a Kassadin into a blind pick, basically, because they don't know what that mid lane is going to be. Thought, oh, Riven,
I was wrong.
Could be a little bit dangerous, but
so looks like
Cowtard coming up big for them there.
Maybe he has the secret to beat the Riven mid with Kassadin, and I'm going to ask him what it is, because I'm I might just use that myself later.
You should watch that one back and just see exactly
exactly
why, because, as I said, it probably should never really happen. 5-0 for Forgiven as well. Talked about him in game number 1 with Lucian, played brilliantly. This one, exactly the same kind of thing with Caitlyn. Obviously, those scores all get amplified when you're winning so hard anyway, but still, brilliant performance.
I just want to point out how well Copenhagen Wolves played that early game. They took an advantage and they knew exactly what to do with it, because a lot of teams sometimes are really good at the early game, but they can't transition it. But they rotated really well. They knew they could siege with Caitlyn, and they shoved Caitlyn around the map, sieging down turret. And even if he couldn't siege, they drew aggro for the other members of Copenhagen Wolves to push down the other turrets around the map. Just a really good team effort, really good shot calling. 2-0. Impressive.
And I'm going to go as far as say, I hope you agree with me on this one, that Copenhagen Wolves, up until now in the amateur tournament, have been the most impressive team that we've seen so far.
Especially given their adaptation. Like, let's not forget, they're playing with 2 members.
Exactly.
And it's not nobody's they lost. They lost Reckles and Shook, arguably 2 of the best players in that role, or amongst the top, let's just say, before we call out any favorites. And they managed to replace them with 2 top-notch players and just find the synergy again.
Yeah, and they done it. They found that synergy. I mean, TCM were the team that aren't changed, you know, out of the 4 amateur teams in this one. But funnily enough, they're the ones that are knocked out right now, and the 2 teams that have been really changing things up there, doing very, very well. But I have to say, impressed with the Copenhagen Wolves. I expected a little bit closer game here in game number 2, but you know, any adaptation that SK would have thrown at them, wow, the Wolves just handled everything that they threw at them.
SK seemed a little linear in their approach. I like that Candy, Panda, and If they changed it up. They took away the Zyra. I think that was smart from a ban and pick process. But it seemed like Copenhagen Wolves was ready for that. They had the counter for that, and they still had these like signature triple melee or triple bruiser jungle top mid, and maybe limited amount of AP champions in Jez's pool may have been the reason they lost this game.
Well, that's the thing. We saw the bans, the Orion and the Nidalee coming out against him.
Gragas
Saw him Gragas as well. We saw him playing those in the qualifiers. Did brilliantly, but didn't quite find his rhythm here with Riven. Didn't even mean to do that, but it worked out nicely anyway. So, guys, we're going to head over to Demon and Jason. They're going to break down that very, very convincing second game and game number 1.
Thank you very much, Joe and Crepo. Fantastic match there. Great to have Crepo casting as well. So, SK Gaming 2-0'd. What the hell just happened? Copenhagen Wolves, very close first game, it has to be said. Pretty clinical finishing, though, from Copenhagen Wolves.
Yeah, I have to say, in game 1, I was really... I was really annoyed. Okay, let me talk it out. I was really annoyed by seeing Kautar play Zyra again.
Yeah.
But he played it so damn well. I mean, we saw it back in the spring split when he was playing with Copenhagen Wolves. He did phenomenal. But here, 1v1ing Jesus in middle on that Riven, and then just carrying that throughout the game was ridiculous. And it's shown, well, in game number 2, that he's been able to expand his champion pool, which is really one of the downfalls that we saw back in the, before the spring split started.
And it's a pretty clever pick because it's a champion that a lot of supports, especially like Nif, like to play. So it took him away. And then moving into game 2, Copenhagen Wolves stepped it up a gear, and SK Gaming just had no answer.
Yeah, I think they had a decent answer in the beginning. When we saw the double push come on the turret's bottom for Copenhagen Wolves, they took both those, and then they had the lane swaps come into effect, and then realizing that Singe had such an easier time than Jax in the lanes, Svenskjern visited top lane quite a bit, got 2 kills onto him, even though Youngbuck had a huge CS lead. But in the end, it didn't really matter much because the rest of Copenhagen Wolves were so farmed. They kept rotating, forcing SK to be in a bad position. And from that, they came out really far ahead. And keep in mind, SK, they were up 3-0 in the beginning, about 5-6 minutes in. It ended at 14-4 for Copenhagen Wolves. So in the span of the 20-25 minutes, they only got 1 more kill. And that really kind of shows, I guess, that Copenhagen Wolves, the synergy within the team, the communication's really working out for them. Where on SK's side, it seems to be lacking a little bit.
So we've seen both the teams from the amateur side that are going to be in the finals. What do we think from this? Ninjas in Pajamas earlier on seemed a little lost once he got past the lane phase. Copenhagen Wolves seemed pretty solid at finishing games.
Yeah, when it comes to them tomorrow, I really want to know who's going to pull this one out. I'm partially in favor of Copenhagen Wolves just because of the reasons you said. I mean, NIP, they're kind of in the Lemon Dogs phase where they don't know how to close out games. Lemon Dogs had the longest average game time when they won back in the summer split of LCS, around 40-something minutes. But Copenhagen Wolves showing they can take an advantage early, they can hold that advantage, and they can punish you with that advantage and close out a game very quickly. Even though it's a little bit more one-sided this time, they still showed a lot of things that a lot of professional teams can do.
Yeah, so the teams that have changed around effectively in the amateur scene, it seems Copenhagen Wolves are looking pretty deadly despite losing effectively their 2 stars, I guess you could say. Maybe, as we talked about in the pre-show, the fact that those guys, there's no one to focus now. And that maybe that's something teams are going to have to research coming up. They're going to have to say, who do we focus now in Copenhagen Wolves?
You said something that actually just kind of procs up into my mind. You're saying about, not having their stars. We think back to NIP, back in the spring split, when we saw Bjergsen finally come into the team. Remember the test? He was struggling really hard as AD carry, but when Bjergsen came into there, it was kind of like a sigh of relief for him. It was like a weight lift off his shoulders. He started to play so much better. I think because of, in the opposite sense, with Reckless leaving, with Shook leaving, they kind of allows Kautar to really step up and carry his team. It allows Youngbuck to do extremely well in lane, and not to mention their other lanes were just doing phenomenally well.
Yeah, so it's fantastic stuff. So, Copenhagen Wolves, they're into the finals, and we're going to speak to their top laner. It is going to be Youngbuck alongside Shocks.
Thank you very much, D-Man. Yes, their top laner and team captain, Youngbuck. And as the guys were talking about, you losing in your team 2 people that have been so good for you guys in the last couple of months. Reckless, of course, and that has been replaced by Forgiven, and then Amazing coming in the jungle. How has that been for you guys to deal with that? Because Shook and Reckless were considered as being 2 very, very strong players in your team.
Yeah, I think they were our 2 strongest players, and we had a lot of stress that revolved around them. So finding new players was difficult for us. Amazing, however, was already the 2nd guy on my list when I created the lineup, so that was a done deal and went very easily. The AD carry, however, we tried out 3 or 4 people, and eventually we went with Forgiven, and the support said, yeah, this guy is by far the best AD carry, we need to keep this guy. So, and even after that, the team synergy started to become a lot better, maybe even better than the previous lineup, because we need to rely more on teamwork than the individual skill.
You say that Amazing was a sure thing for you. Why is that exactly? Of course, you need that perfect synergy with your jungler as you are in the top lane. What is it? Is it his champion pool that suits you very well, or the cooperation?
Well, besides him being a very good solo queue player, I also know he has a similar style and similar champion pool to Shook, so we thought it would be the easiest replacement for him.
All right, now, gotta say, in this matchup, a clean 2-0 sweep versus SK Gaming. Was there anything in that team that you were wary of going into it? We saw the new mid laner picking Riven 2 times in a row. Is something that surprised you guys, or you knew exactly how to deal with?
We were pretty sure they were going for the Riven, and we had the Zyra planned for that, for the last pick. The second game was a little bit more difficult because they picked the Zyra themselves, and we wanted the Gragas, but he ended up banning it out, so in the end, it all went fine because Kautar is really good with the Kassadin, especially against Riven. We've trained that a lot, so he managed to do fine.
Yeah, because we were kind of afraid, oh, he's going for that Kassadin, he can be counterpicked, but you guys had it all prepared. It was very, very obvious that. And we were talking about the Renekton, because for both Freddy and you, it's the champion you like to play. And then in the second game, it got banned down. You had to go for a Jax matchup versus, and I was like, luckily I have my notes, and you played Singed, which can, of course, be a real nuisance in the game. How did that matchup go?
Well, unfortunately, they lane swapped, but my team did so well in the bot lane that I actually got ahead of the Jax, which shouldn't happen. But I think that was because Svenskeren decided to dive me instead of helping out the Jax. And I just stayed ahead a lot, and the team did the rest, actually.
Yeah, very impressive team play from you guys coming out. And of course, tomorrow you have another big test coming up as you'll be going up against Ninjas in Pajamas. From what you've seen from them earlier, what do you think?
They looked a little bit shaky, but they've been our main script partner for this tournament, actually, so it's going to be very fun.
Well, we're looking forward to that, of course. Good luck tomorrow as well. And as for us, we're going to go over to Paul, who has an update on social media.
Thank you very much. Yes.